ghost-related stories and claims that make the headlines on a regular basis. My name's Hayley Stevens, and joining me are my fellow Spooktators Ash Pryce.
Hello there.
Paul Gannon.
Hello.
Mike Gage.
Oi.
And Alistair Coleman.
Good evening.
In each episode, we will look at the previous month and bring you the worst of ghost-related headlines. If you spot any stories that you think we should feature in future episodes, you can email them to throwghosts@spooktator.co.uk, or you can just get in touch via the website. You can follow us on Twitter at the Spooktator, or you can go to Facebook at facebook.com/Spooktator and give us a like there and leave comments and posts and everything. So this month we are looking back at October, and boy oh boy do we have some random shit to talk about tonight. But before we begin, did you guys have a good Halloween?
Very. I was doing 2 shows on Halloween, 2 magic shows. One went on at 9:30, the other at 1:30 in the morning, in Scotland's allegedly most haunted pub. So there's nothing quite like performing magic for a room full of drunks on Halloween night at 1 a.m. It was an experience.
Did anything strange happen?
Yeah, I mean, a table levitated, I brought up ectoplasm, I hammered a nail into my head in order to exorcise the ghosts. I'd say that was pretty strange.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Yeah.
Yeah,
done
exactly.
One of the two. Oh.
What did the rest of you get up to?
Well, my night was completely ruined by the existence of Most Haunted Live, but we'll get to that in good time.
We will.
And I tell you why we ruined it, because I had 2 friends over. My girlfriend and one of my mates from Brighton. And I was like, oh, we'll have so much fun watching the show and twittering, and within 2 hours, it looked like I'd just told them they were the worst people in the world, and they hated me. They literally hated me. So I gave up on the last hour.
Well, we did. We watched the whole show and we did a drinking game, but we set the rules kind of really high, and we were downing shots like every 2 minutes, and it was ridiculous. So we kind of gave up halfway through on the drinking game. But yeah, that was my Halloween.
I was aware of the drinking game and decided to stay sober just so somebody could remember it.
I can remember it. I think, just in a blurry kind of way. Okay, Mike, what did you do on Halloween?
I'm a spoiler sport. So what me and my dad did is we turned the lights off and hid in the back room. So we didn't have to give anything out. Because my dad's idea of Halloween is he doesn't buy sweets or anything, nor do I. So if he gets caught, he just gets money out of his pocket, gives them 20p.
I always hated that person.
Yeah.
As a kid, I always hated the person that gave you 20p. It was like, what's this? I want sweets.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just buy me off.
My dad doesn't do that. He makes me turn the lights off. In fact, my bedroom is at the front of the house, and I had to keep the lights off. In fact, he went outside to check and then came back in again to see if anybody could see it. That's as bad as we get in this house.
I think the people that give money are, I don't know if they're worse than people that give fruit, but then there are also people who give like toothbrushes and toothpaste, which is just
Get out of here.
like I've never had that happen, but I've heard about those people.
Oh,
Who gets upset?
Is that it seems like Mike's turn from not doing Halloween, but he will celebrate the Purge. So it's like one or the other.
Hiding in the dark, like looking out the curtain. They're
What's wrong with being given money, though?
It's just, I don't know, it's just lazy.
It
The
is.
whole idea of
You
Halloween
can buy
is...
sweets with money.
But you can't
The
anymore.
20p could have gone towards sweets, but he didn't bother to do that. He just would rather keep the money and hide in the back house. So no, it wasn't going ahead. It wasn't going ahead.
Yeah,
Back
20
in my
Can't help it,
day,
it's his house,
Yeah,
you know.
Credo.
you could get a Freddo for 20p, but you can't anymore. Aren't they like 26p now or something? I'm
I've
pretty
seen
sure-
Freddo faces at 50p, like a little bag of just Freddo faces, but tiny ones that are about the same bulk as the sweet. The price of Freddo does represent and reflect the inflation within society.
Thatcher's Britain.
Yeah.
Is there a
Thatcher,
market for
Freddo,
Freddo's
Snatcher.
bodies?
Sorry, Alistair?
Is there a market for Freddo's bodies in another country?
Oh.
Does anyone-
In France, maybe. Wasn't he a frog? He was a frog,
Yes.
wasn't he? I rest my
Yes,
case.
it was, and he still is.
Do you remember you used to be able to get the holes from polos? You get like a little
Yes.
packet with holes in.
Oh my god, we're going down memory lane. Let's not go there. It's very depressing and dark.
Blackjacks and fruit salads.
Yeah. Oh god, I just want some sweets now. It seems apt for a show that examines the news to kick off with a story that's literally wrapped in newspaper. Alistair, what's been happening at Chip Shop in Warrington?
Well, I've got a pun alert, fishy story for you here.
Oh.
There's a chip shop in Warrington where the owners claim it's haunted, and they've had a psychic in to tell them that, yes, actually it is haunted, isn't it? And, of course, it's made it into the Warrington Guardian newspaper. It's very much a case of people confirming their own suspicions. I mean, I'm a journalist. I deal in evidence and how it's presented to people, and you can see here that people have decided there is a ghost at this railway station already, and let's call a man in just to confirm our suspicions, and it's possibly in his interest. He might actually believe that he's a genuine psychic. I believe that he's probably not a genuine psychic. He'll say that yes, there is a ghost there. There are other parts of the story that have not been mentioned so far. Number one, it's in an old railway station, dating from the 1820s to the 1830s, and our man says it's an old building, therefore it's bound to have ghosts. And the other thing is, it's next to a railway line where trains go past every 20 minutes.
Oh gosh.
So they hear strange noises, things falling off shelves. It's ghosts.
Of course they do.
I'm not saying it's ghosts, but it's ghosts.
Did they hear ghostly trains like in the distance? Like, oh, that was a train ghost. A ghost
No,
train.
but they did say a lot of troops came through here during the war.
Oh well, there you go. You know,
With
if
you
anybody
can actually see the
watching,
dot hanging in the air.
anybody watching who wants to see that story, if you go to bit.ly/fishy ghost, that will take you to that story. It's
And
gripping.
do read the comments underneath it. Do read the comments underneath it, because I mean, yes, the bottom can be terrible, but there is some high comedy in there.
Oh, please read one or two out so the people who are watching can get a taste of that.
Oh yes. Well, there are no puns on chip shops and ghosts, as I've tried 2 hours today to try and think of any, and just got up with a fishy story. Yeah.
Do you feel
of course.
bastard as I record?
Yeah, fishy stories. Lived in this area all my life. Used to play around the old station in the back as a kid many years ago. Oh no, I never heard of such fishy stories. And another one, which is what we believe in. Fantasy and misinformation. It's amazing what can be achieved with auto-suggestion and storytelling, as demonstrated by this article. So there you go.
There is a token skeptic in there somewhere, which is always
Skeptic.
good.
And a lot of people saying publicity stunt. Well, I mean, why would a business go to the newspaper?
Now I'm
Why
just
indeed?
desperate.
Fish and chips at
Yeah.
I'm just desperate now to try and think of a genuinely good ghost and fish shop related pun. We have to do that before the end of the show. Or anybody watching and listening, please.
There are none. There are none. I tried 2 hours today.
No. We'd all be skating on thin ice if that was the case. Because if the chips are down, we have to go with the best option we have.
I was going to go with...
It's not the
Chipotle
place for this
Blood.
type of thing.
We're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, aren't we?
Get on to the next story.
Yeah.
I've got a pun that it's something about the fish and chip shop has soul.
Yes.
Oh!
Souls.
Interestingly, the psychic is a guy called Kevin. I can't remember his last name, but if you go onto if you go onto his website, you can read the first chapter of his book, and he's a very troubled man, I think.
Kevin McGrath.
Yeah, very troubled man.
Sorry,
It's all about
what makes
how...
him troubled? What makes him troubled?
Well, just the first chapter of his book is all about how, as a child, he was abused, and he used to hang out with some wasps and mice in his garden until his parents killed them.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
My
That's
question.
not...
I mean,
That's basically the
I've
start of
heard
a horror
theory-
film.
Yeah.
The man with bees all over, wasps all
Yeah.
over his face, like
He shoots
I see
wasps
dead
out of his
people.
fingers.
You think like Tom Waits would look at that and just go, "Whoa, man, heavy."
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that the staff at the Chippy have put 2 and 2 together and ended up with 5. This wouldn't have happened if they had a calculator to hand. But then
Oh.
again, that might not be such a good idea. What do you think, Mike?
That was possibly the worst link between two stories I've ever come across. My story comes from the depths of insanity, I think, this week. I think I might just, except from Paul's, which we'll come to in a bit, I think my story is probably the weirdest here. It's about a ghostly calculator, and I'm gonna quote some of this because it's madness. It literally is madness. So I'm gonna quote this. I'm gonna read it and quote it. According to the Ever Faithful Mirror, a couple are convinced their calculator is actually a ghost. After it printed off a symbol upon their demand, which is obviously bullshit. Fran and his fiancée were left screaming in fear after the calculator produced a diamond symbol, the exact shape they requested. In the video, which has been taken down since because it is bullshit, the couple asked the calculator to print their desired symbol several times. You guys look unconvinced already. What's
The
going on?
video, you can, if people want to see the story, they
Yeah.
can go to bit.ly/numberghost. And the original video, I found it on YouTube. It's at bit.ly/ghostcal1. So that's ghost, CAL1. And that's the original video.
Oh right, I saw the video on the Mirror website before it was taken down.
Yeah.
I didn't know they put it back up somewhere. Okay, that's cool.
See, with this, the whole calculator ghost thing and the spirit of calculators, it just reminds me of the Red Dwarf episode where Crichton's talking about Silicon Heaven, but where do all the calculators go?
And the other thing about this calculator is that it sends messages to people.
Yeah, it does.
If you turn it upside down, it will say shell oil and sometimes boobies.
Oh my god, I remember doing that at school and it would say boobless. You are boobless.
There.
See,
through
kids today just
poverty.
can't get that.
No,
But
they
literally, you could literally go around every single part of your house and look for broken objects, and then just take a picture of it or have a video and just send it to the Mirror for 50 quid. I don't understand. You could do that anyway. I've got a tap downstairs that's leaking. I'm not going to go downstairs and say there's a ghost like manipulating the tap and like get 50 quid from the Mirror. I don't know how this works. I mean, if you can get money doing that, I'm going to go around doing it all day. I don't understand how they get away with it.
Well,
Really?
interestingly, this story, I did some digging because it was quite compelling in a way,
Right.
and I found other videos of other haunted calculators.
Yeah.
So for those who are watching, if you want to go to bit.ly/ghostcal2, that's ghost CAL2, there is a video from last year of somebody having exactly the same problem with a calculator that looks very similar to the one in the most recent video. It's just spewing out the roll. And they said the only way it would stop is if they unplugged it from the power source. And then I found another video from 2007 with the same thing happening again. And interestingly, the comment underneath that one, that it really made my day because they said, this calculator is either haunted or possessed by a demon. Nobody is near it when it just starts turning on and off by itself. Makes you wonder if ghosts really do exist, doesn't it? No. No.
Well, we do
No.
know that demons can sort of like possess different people, so I'm assuming that the previous calculator was possessed by the same demon, and it's just changing calculators as it goes along. Rather.
Here's the
Well,
thing.
I did some further Googling on this, and I found the manual for the calculator, and apparently it's an overflow error in the memory, in which case the reset recommended will take care of it, or it's a more serious control circuitry error, which cannot be fixed.
Was the guide written in blood
that's
and bound in flesh?
As I noted,
I don't know.
I do have a hammer you can use to exorcise a spirit from this, and you'll never need a calculator ever again.
You know what I look forward to now is that in the future there's going to be some movie based on this story, like Annabelle was out last year. There'll be calculator.
How did they
No,
order
a
it?
calculator in a case, in a
And
glass case.
the tagline I've got this is nothing adds up.
I saw that one
Sorted.
coming. I
Sorted.
saw that one coming.
Actually, interestingly enough, the article in the Mirror that talked about this story asks at the bottom, do you think this is the work of a ghost? 60% said no, 40% said yes.
I know. Yeah. I was going to mention that. It's madness. Like 41% of people went, yeah, I believe this.
I'll buy that.
I've got
Yeah.
this.
If it was haunted, it would be 60% no, 45% yes.
There we go.
Very, very good. But I mean, at work, I work in a box office. We have card machines that we do print receipts and reports off of, and we have similar happening with them sometimes. In that you'll be sat there, you've done a report, it's finished, and then suddenly it will just start spewing the till roll out, and sometimes the roll just comes out like a bat out of hell.
Oh my god.
Talking of bats out of hell, Paul.
I'm going.
You've been working on these quite hard.
Too hard.
What's been going on with Meatloaf lately?
So here's the thing. I've decided that my place in this show will be to talk about all the terrible reality, supernatural, paranormal TV shows that exist, and there are many. So many. I didn't think there would be more than 5, but it turns out there's close to like 20 across the world, and that doesn't even go into the people on YouTube who rip off the style, because as we all know, Most Haunted is a big blockbuster production, and all you need to make it is a small camera and a screaming woman in black and white. So quite a lot of videos are on this. So I was watching I was reading a website, Gorka, and there's an article just before Halloween that they have about spooky things, and one of the titles jumped out at me, and it was simply called The Haunting of Meatloaf. Now, not the thing Meatloaf, because as spooky as it would be to have haunted meat, which is probably ever so more slightly scary than a calculator, this is The Haunting of Meatloaf, the singer stroke mentally troubled actor. So I think I can say that when I go into the story. So so basically there's a show on called The Haunting of ... and they have massive celebrities on there talking about their supernatural stories, such as Jordan Ladd and Tom Green. And they're the 2 names I thought you might know, right? So this was Meatloaf, and Meatloaf was going to talk about something that happened to him when he was making Bat Out of Hell in a, I need to get this right, it was a recording studio called Burrsville, I think it was. It's quite a well-known, Burrsville Studios, just outside of Woodstock, New York. He says, checking his facts, not at all reading an internet website. So he goes back there because he had a supernatural occurrence, and he goes along with a psychic called Kim, where are you? Kim Russo, who basically, to describe Kim Russo, is to imagine the actress from My Cousin Vinny, but instead of it being her, she's a psychic instead of a lawyer's sister, if that helps.
That's really helpful, yes.
I've never seen that film.
Does help.
Well, we've already mentioned Jordan Ladd, so where do we go from there? So, the basic episode breaks down into, they have an interview of Meatloaf, he tells the story, and then they have dramatic reenactments hosted by actors who look nothing like anyone. And the guy who played Meatloaf looks like when Cartman played too much Warcraft. I mean, it was that... Just a huge guy, and even if I had been Meatloaf, I wouldn't have thought that was very flattering. And then after the recreation, the psychic and Meatloaf go back to the location, walk around, and then Meatloaf has a standing shouting argument to a shower. So Meatloaf's story, to cut it very long story short, is that he was making Bat Out of Hell at this studio. He was up in the attic one day playing with the Moog, which is a kind of keyboard with weird sounds for young people. And then he saw, or Moog. But Moog did sign off on it, people saying they could say that without feeling, dirty. Apparently that's true. He was happy with people calling it Moog. So he's playing with his Moog. I've said Moog too many times.
I think playing with his Moog. Yeah. Playing with his Moog is such a euphemism, though.
Yes. So he's playing with that, and then he sees a woman in white walk past him. And he follows her outside, and she disappears. And he was like, oh, what's that? And then he said he was in bed later that night, and he's lying on his side watching TV, and then he starts hearing someone at the door. and he won't turn over because he thinks it's Jim Steinbeck, the co-writer of A Bat Out of Hell. And then when he does turn over, he sees a brief shadow man, and then all the cupboards slam open and close, and his quilt comes off, and then Meatloaf, whose reality has been shattered by the last few hours of events, overdoses on pills.
Christ.
Yeah, he says he took a whole load of sleeping pills, didn't he? Just so that he wouldn't have to deal with it.
Yeah, and so that's it. So then the psychic takes him back, and the psychic and him have a psychic off, where apparently Meatloaf is the most psychic person in the world. And there's this lovely little moment where they first walk into the house, and they're both trying to outdo each other by how evil the presence is they're sensing. And so Kim's going, yeah, I feel a dark presence. And then Meatloaf goes, over there, I see it. Did you see it? And Kim's like, no. And she looks frightened at this point. And Kim's like, no, I didn't see it. And goes, oh, I saw it. I'm obviously more in tune with this dark spirit. And they follow it around the house, and then Meatloaf corners it in a bathroom. And then starts shouting at it. He starts saying stuff to the effect of, you can't beat me, you can't beat me, you tried to put me off, but my album was the third highest grossing album in the world, so I win.
So he's threatening it with popularity. That's what he's doing. Right.
He's basically threatening the dead with a triple platinum album, which you don't have, so who are you to stalk, right? And the thing is, the ultimate bottom line for this is that Meatloaf comes across as deeply troubled in this, and if anyone's watched the amount of reality paranormal TV I have, he pops up on quite a lot of these shows. He's been on Ghost Hunters 3 times now, I think, and each time he just looks more shocked. And obviously he's not the man he was, but you look at this grey, old, overweight man, trying to get his shit together, and it's sad. It's sad that he obviously is traumatized by this. So, the long story short,
overweight though. In fairness.
Yeah, but now he's in that overweight sense where you're like, when you see an old man in the street and his pants are falling down, you can see his arse cheeks. that kind of sad overweight thing. I mean, it's unpretty. It's unpretty. What a horrible word.
It's so unpretty.
I watched it. Yeah, so I watched it, and it just came across as deeply exploitative and sad. And then at the end, it was like, well, don't worry, I'm coming back to the place now. I've cleared it of its evil because I have a third album that I'm about to put out, coincidentally. And this is what my ultimate point is. Have you noticed that more and more of these shows are just becoming adverts now? I mean, like when the Ghost Hunters bought that hotel, and they did a special episode set inside it that happened to be very haunted that night, and then you happen to find out that they own it now, and you can go for haunted weekends. And we'll get onto this a bit later, but we'll find out something about the most haunted live house that happened this weekend that again plays into this sense of tourism and this you're using the supernatural as advertising now. So
I don't know though if it's something that's happening more and more. It's always kind of happened. I mean, and I know you're all going to laugh when I say this, but if you look at the old case of Scratching Fanny of Cock Lane, go on, laugh.
Yeah,
get it out of your system. The taverns, that was a poltergeist case in London, and ages ago, back probably Victorian times, maybe just after Victorian times, and the taverns around that area, they did a roaring trade because people were going to that area of London to see this case. I mean, it attracted royalty. I think one of the princes visited this place that was supposed to be haunted, and the tavern owners absolutely loved it. And of course, like the local pickpockets, they absolutely loved it too because they could go in and rob the people that were crowding around to see this ghost. And I think there's always been an element of that, but the difference is obviously now you can broadcast live television, kind of like we are now. We're just doing it online, but you can do it, on the television, on the internet. You can reach a global audience. It's all there, and I guess, if it had been there back in Victorian times, they would have done the same.
Yes. We had one in our local paper just today, actually. God bless you, the Fleet News and Mail. The question in the headline was, does this photograph show a ghost in this pub in Yateley? And if anybody who works in journalism may already have heard of something called Betteridge's Law, which states any question posed in a headline, the answer will be no. So the question, is there a ghost in this photograph of a pub in Yateley? No. It's just lens flare. So it's probably just part of the new Star Trek film.
Nice.
So if anyone watching wants to read about the Meatloaf ghost, you can go to bit.ly/stupid meatloaf, and it's there for you.
It's also the whole
and
episode is also on YouTube as well if you're desperate.
yes, it is.
Well,
In fact, if you go
there's
to
nothing that's there. Just a video of it.
if you go to our episode notes on the spooktator.co.uk, there's a link there to the video. You can watch it in the UK. You can't watch it on the official site unless you're in the US, I think. But there is a video elsewhere that you can watch. The haunting of Meatloaf is pretty baffling. To be honest, equally as baffling is the conclusion reached by the photographer in the story chosen by Ash. What's the score, Pryce?
Okay, excellent. Yes. So, a photograph earlier this month appeared in the Daily Mail, and it was taken just outside of Birmingham in a place called Sandwell Valley Nature Reserve. And on this location, it's a photograph taken on a mobile phone. A woman's gone out taken a photograph on a mobile of the woodland area. It's a beautiful woodland area, and against the tree is apparently the ghost of an 18th century child who died there when there was a mine shaft in place. And the photograph is of the woodlands, and there's this little kind of white illuminated area which they say is actually a spirit, a ghost. Now, I've seen a lot of ghost photos, I'm sure we all have, and you know when you see those photographs that you look at and you instantly just think, how did anyone think that could be anything supernatural at all? Because this is quite clearly just light. It's just sunlight hitting a part of the tree. You can even see various parts of the picture where the sun could be getting through the trees. And it's one of those really interesting photos where it's almost like the press have just taken it just because it claimed to be supernatural and it's just about clickbait. Because if you look at the photograph, if you see it, it's just not convincing at all. It really, really doesn't look like anything other than sunlight hitting a bit of a tree. And when you zoom in and look at it, it looks nothing like a child. It looks nothing like a person. It doesn't look like they're wearing 18th century clothes at all. It just looks like a bit of light hitting a tree. And this kind of stuck out to me because you see so many ghost photographs, and there's all sorts of explanations for them. In this case, we'd probably say it's pareidolia, where the person is interpreting a naturally occurring object or a random collection of data and seeing it as something supernatural when it's not. But you see so many photographs like this, and I've seen pictures where it's clearly just a person walking down the stairs, but somebody said, oh no, it's the face of a ghost or something like that. So this picture is very much like that, in that so many pictures are just kind of natural, normal occurring photographs, but have somehow taken on this supernatural edge because to the person looking at it, it's not instantly obvious to them what it is. And you see it the same with orb photographs where we know what's causing them, but this photograph just stood out because it just so clearly is just light hitting a tree. It's amazing.
I disagree. I have a whole different theory about this one.
Really? Okay.
People at home, if you want to see this photo, you can go to bit.ly/it's a chicken. And this is my theory. Yes. Right. At first, I looked at this picture and I thought, no, that's. It looks like sunlight on a tree, but how do we know that that's not how ghosts manifest?
Oh.
Deep.
That
right?
is deep.
So it could just be the ghost of a child manifesting in a way that looks like sunlight on a tree. But then the more that I looked at it, and I invite you to go and look at it, bit.ly/it's a chicken. Go and have a look, because the more you look at it, especially if you look at the bottom of it, it looks like a raw chicken.
Wow.
It really does. Now that's all I can see.
Yeah. We've got to come to grips with the fact that there are probably millions of ghost chickens around. What with the prevalence of KFC up and down the country?
You know what? This is a theory.
Will be haunted.
Well, this is a thought I've recently had as well, funnily enough, is that, you know, like there's this whole thing about K2 meters that can measure ghosts in the area or the nearest fuse box, because that's what they really are meant to pick up on. What if a ghost hides in a fuse box? How will we ever know that that's where ghosts exist?
But they know now, you've told them.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
I'm out of them.
But it does look like a chicken. And
It
so
really,
I thought,
really does.
It's just the pareidolia effect. But then I thought, no, what if it's the ghost of a child looking like a chicken, looking like sunlight on a tree?
Wow.
She's dressed up
better.
as a chicken for Halloween.
Probably one of the most haunted places in England at this point in time. Then is that the theory?
Or
Is
Pendle.
what the theory?
The frozen section of Tesco's is the most haunted area of England right now. Has got to be a theory.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? That's the case.
Yeah, but when you go through there, don't you start to chill?
Ah, there you go. Yeah,
Puns
they don't,
galore.
It's
they
wicked,
don't
this.
actually have to use freezers because the ghosts keep it cold enough to store the dead chickens and.
You see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So here's a question then. Has anyone here ever seen a picture that they've gone, even if it's real or not, they've gone, that's quite an effective picture. I could almost buy that as something supernatural.
This one.
Apart from the obvious. Because the thing is, obviously a lot of this stuff is rubbish and fake, but there's always that one episode of Ghost Hunters that always gets me. It's the one in the penitentiary, the Eastern State Penitentiary,
Yeah.
and something manifests in the air, and it looks like it's a cloak running down a gantry. And if that's a fake, it's really well done, but I still get the chills looking at that video.
There is one episode of Most Haunted. I think they were at Brannigan's in Manchester, and Derek Okora gets possessed, and he's possessed by this.
Hold it. Right, go on.
No, he's possessed by this guy called Godfrey Parks, and back in the day, I believe that scared me silly. And it was back when Phil Wyman was on the show, and old school Most Haunted, and that really convinced me at the time. Obviously, I look back now and I'm not so convinced, but at the time, that got me. That really got me.
There was a documentary a few years ago shown on Bravo of all channels, World's Most Convincing Ghost Caught on Camera, and there's this one bit where these guys have gone out to this old house in the woods, taken a photograph, and then they put the picture into a computer, scale back layers, and it's all dark, and you just see this ghostly woman in white, kind of like as if she's launching forward like the ghost at the beginning of Ghostbusters, and this was back when I kind of was still on the edge. And it scared the hell out of me. Me and a friend watched it, and both of us refused to go home. So we kind of just both stayed in my room. It was so scary.
Yeah, no, the thing is that the people actually, when they take these photos or see these things in the open, is that they see what they want to see. Having seen the Fleet Panther twice, which is a large cat which belongs to my neighbour, I've walked out in the dark and seen this huge grey animal lurching towards me, and frankly, the first time it did scare the willies out of me. And then once your brain gets itself all straightened out and it takes a step towards you into the streetlight, and you just find out it's a cat next door that looks a bit like Hitler. You do feel a bit stupid, but I've seen this effect a few times for myself now, and you do actually believe what your eyes are telling you, even though deep down you know it's wrong. And that's the same sort of thing you get with ghost photographs as well.
I still think that it's a trickster ghost, and it's just making us think that. Talking of ghost tricksters, Most Haunted Live.
Oh my god, that was such a good segue.
Thank you. Thank you. These were hard to think up, all of them. Really hard, and I'm really proud of them, and I don't care what anybody else says. Fuck the lot of you.
I'm happy you're happy.
Thank you, Ash. So, Most Haunted Live, we had to talk about this. Anybody who's not familiar with what happened, because you were out having a normal life, you can go to bit.ly/ropegate. And that will take you to the Bad Psychics website, where John Donis has written up the whole controversy. Paul, you're the kind of most haunted nerd. Do you want to explain what happened?
Yeah, basically, on Saturday night, I wasted my life for 2.5 hours, and I'm not getting it back. So Most Haunted Live has been a thing that's been happening for a while. Most Haunted, I would say it's the grandfather of this whole genre of reality TV, paranormal reality TV. And they never really, I don't think they got, because they looked at Ghost Hunters as all the money they made, and then they kind of felt like they'd missed out on all that lucre. I think that's why they're back now, and they've gone the whole paranormal activity route. So it was live. It was Most Haunted Live from a house. And to cut a very long story short, if you've seen Ghost Watch, you've seen Most Haunted Live last weekend, except without the effective acting and the convincing special effects and a plot. So they were at this house. What was it? 30 Edge Lane or something? What was the name of the house?
30 East Drive.
East Drive. I was close. There's an E in it, right? I got the number right. So suck it. And that's all of a sudden become the new kind of hot haunted house in the UK. And they went there because they had a 2-part special where all kinds of crazy bullshit happened, and they thought it'd be great for a live show. And to get to the point we're going to talk about is that 2 things happened in the show that was so super scary for everyone involved. One was a knife came out of a box and found itself on a bed, and then disappeared, and then found itself in the hallway, and then disappeared, and then found itself off Carl's jumper, and then appeared somewhere else. And then, what else? And then, yes, Carl was attacked by a ghost as he happened to be wearing a rope around his waist. The 2 things are unrelated, by the way. So that was it, and as a result, a lot of people are online now saying, "I can't believe Ghost Most Haunted's fake. I've loved this show, and now my confidence is shot." And that's what blows my mind about it. So yeah, Hayley, what do you think about it all? Because I've kind of muddled my explanation of it, but that's the gist.
Well, that wasn't all that happened though, because at the end, Stuart Torval ended up through a door.
I missed that.
Who pays for this shit? Like, they break everything in the house, and then they go, right, you can go back in now. They go on, there's your house back.
Well,
through a window. Who pays for this stuff?
nobody actually lives there, I don't think. It's owned by a number of people, and they allow people to go in there overnight and so on. But yeah, he ended up through a glass door. Like they did this finale at midnight, which is the witching hour, and they had Fred back there doing these demonic chants like, "Satan, we summon thee, Beelzebub from the south," and all this crap.
Yeah,
And
Beelzebub coming from the south and the west, so he couldn't even make up his mind.
Well, when it was crazy, and then they had Yvette Fielding and Paul O'Grady, who was a guest, locked in this little coal cupboard place, and then they had this prayer chanting going on, and there was a noise, and the camera turned to look somewhere else, and then suddenly there's a louder noise, and it turned back round, and Stuart was just hanging through a door, just like,
Wow.
yeah,
I
through a
missed
glass
that.
door.
I have to watch it again.
He just kind of thrown himself. Well, no, sorry, he got thrown through the door. But yeah, the controversy around Carl Beatty is that people are saying that the rope pulled him up the stairs, and that he walked down in a way that was quite weird and kind of indicative that he had something around him. He has then said that it's actually a camera cable, and he's released a video that shows him with the camera cable and how it would look and all that kind of thing, and that it didn't pull him. Other people have then produced videos of the camera cable before that incident and how it doesn't look anything like what you see during the pulling incident. And I don't know, I just think people are just kind of overreacting. Of course they play up to the camera. It's what they do. They want this controversy. They want people, they want us to be talking about it like we are right now, and blogging about it, and posting on Facebook about it, and on Twitter about it, and just creating this debate. That's what they want. It's what their aim is. It's what the whole purpose of the show is.
And the irony of that is that Most Haunted has become its own urban legend, in that you talk about what other people didn't see, and it's got its own mythology now to that show. Other shows don't really have, and so yeah, it's like, of course they want us to talk about it. Was it Bad Psychics that leaked the article about someone who was at Antics, the company that makes Most Haunted, and they were talking about that it was intentionally leaked that certain things that happened during the live shows were of course faked. Yeah.
Did you cut out?
No,
there?
that was it. No, that was just me finishing a sentence.
It looked like you were carrying on.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, you can pay to go to this house, but I think, doesn't Carl Beatty own it or co-own the house?
I think the story goes is that there's a production company and they have money in it, and they work with other production companies on internet stuff and web shows and whatever, and that one of those shows they work with is Antics. So,
I see. Okay.
And then someone posted online, I can't remember where it was now, but basically said there were three names on the homeowners sheet, and one of them happens to have the surname Beatty, which is Carl's surname. And they say whether it's him or a brother, we don't know, but yeah.
But didn't you? I don't know. When I was watching, they made this big deal about they had this knife and they were putting it in a box. They made such a huge deal about the knife that it was really obvious that it was going to appear somewhere.
Yeah, in narrative storytelling, they call that hanging a lantern on something, where it's like if you show a gun in Act 1, you better show someone shooting that gun in Act 3.
Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, Chekhov's gun. All that knife thing was, let's put this in this box that can never be touched and is on a camera the whole time, so we can't touch it. It's very much like watching a Paul Daniels magic trick.
Although for Star Trek fans, it would be called Chekhov's phaser now. Alright, thank you.
Very
The
good.
thing I want to know
Very
is,
good.
did anybody ever see the knife get put into the box? Was it actually?
Yes.
It did get put into the box.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, they did. There
Was it one of a
scene
set of 6 steak knives or something?
Yeah.
Well, there
And
were
then
other
you've got
knives in the
everything.
drawer.
Because couldn't they have
Yeah.
just literally just put an empty box on the table and just had the knife in their back
No,
pocket the entire time?
He kind of had the box and the knife, and he went up to the camera and made a real big deal of like, I'm putting this in the box.
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
you
And then
know,
they
there were-
put it in front of a webcam where it was on apparently the whole time. And the thing is, I've seen enough Mission Impossible to know is that you can hack the feed and just take the knife out and all this kind of stuff. Having it on a webcam means nothing.
Well, exactly.
Well, you don't
I
even
know
need my
too.
classics. I've seen Speed and how they did that with the camera on the bus.
Yeah.
Well, you don't even need to do that. I mean, from a magician's point of view, there are ways that can be done by having a genuinely live feed that doesn't cut out, and there are ways you can do it quite easily. I mean, the very simplest one would be a fake bottom in the box or a fake top in the box, which just covers the knife when the box closes. That's it. It then can be a genuine box in full view, and then you just have a duplicate knife.
Yeah, because the one bit that made me completely laugh was that after the knife had gone missing and then reappeared, then gone missing and reappeared, and all of a sudden they're talking to the producer and the both saying, should we get rid of the knife? Yes, we should put the knife outside the house. Then they go into the kitchen, and then they find a drawer full of knives, and they start pulling them out. And then one of them just says, let's just take the whole drawer out, it'll be quicker. And I thought,
Yeah, duh.
yeah. And the thing is, if I'm going to kill you with a knife and I'm a ghost, I'm going to find other things in that house. I mean, that grandfather clock never happened. They kept talking about that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that didn't move one sodding inch.
I was really hoping it would. Because, they were hinting at the knife, and the knife happened, and then they were hinting at other stuff, and other stuff happened, and I was like, come on, kill Yvette. But no, honestly, I don't want Yvette to die. I don't, because that's
You just
really
don't want her
hard.
to live.
I just, yeah, she's like a paradox. No, it would just have been hilarious if they just kind of jumped the shark and the whole thing had just, like with Ghostwatch, which obviously is fiction, and at the end it just completely kicks off, and then you've got Michael Parkinson possessed, and the studio is breaking up. I wanted that to happen. I wanted the house to disintegrate around them. But
That's
it
what I
didn't
thought
happen.
was the biggest. I'll say irony in the wrong course. I'm sure I'm using it wrong, but the irony of it being that 15 years since Ghostwatch's broadcast, I was watching something Saturday night that was almost beat for beat Ghostwatch. It was the way the cameras were set up. The house looked the same, similar to the one from the original TV show. The way the camera crews were. I mean, I said this as well as like on the online on Twitter. I said it was like Michael Parkinson to Ghostwatch was what Ryland was to Most Haunted Live, and in nothing between those two people, that's the drop off of quality we're talking about here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, oh my god, you can't make that comparison.
No, you
But
really
no,
can't.
you're
Even
right.
if you look back to the beginning of Ghostwatch, not Ghostwatch, Most Haunted, when they were getting overexcited over a couple of orbs, which are just the dust they'd thrown up, or a squeaky floorboard in an old room they've been walking in, and year on year on year, they've had to up the ante every single time until now you've basically just got this orgy of violence and people running around telling each other to fuck off.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way it has to go, isn't it? I mean, it's very similar with stage psychics. They have to constantly be getting a hit. Most Haunted has to constantly be doing something and showing something, because it's obviously an amazingly wonderful coincidence that all this paranormal activity just happens to happen when they're there. Because if it didn't, they wouldn't get viewing audiences. And now with films and so many other copycats out there, they kind of have to keep upping the game. They'd probably do well to get a magic consultant or someone in. Hi, I'm available if you want me.
That'd be great if we get an insider.
I have the whole thing with the knife. It did make me think of that they must have some kind of magician as a consultant, because that struck me as some kind of a trick.
I don't know if they needed the magician to tell Cole to hide it up his sleeve, though. I'm pretty sure. Because there's that shot, isn't there? You can see the dangle in his jumper of the knife, and it's like, oh, come on, mate, put a little bit of work in.
I think some people forget just how good night vision cameras can be. Like when you're walking around in the dark, you just assume nobody can see you. But as a woman who ghost hunts, I can tell you that not only can the webcams and the night vision see you, you can also see your underwear.
Yeah, that's weird. That.
I know. Like you can't wear a bra properly, like on ghost
I know.
hunts.
I had the exact same problem.
Aw, it sucks.
I did say I would mention this because it was funny, but that whole rope thing in Most Haunted, I reckon I can finally say that if you give them enough rope, they will hang themselves. I think this show was basically almost kind of jumping the shark moment for them as a show.
Yeah, it
I think
really
we need
was.
I think we need a pun counter in the bottom left-hand corner.
I was going to ask Paul if he's got these all written down like a little notepad somewhere.
That's the sad thing. I don't have this written down. It's just my sad problem mentally that we all have to deal with.
And yet
Wasn't there
my
something-
link in... What?
What? I was just no, I didn't want to speak over you. But wasn't there something we were supposed to remind Paul about?
Oh yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah, Chris Conway Drive.
Yeah, okay, that's exactly what I asked you to write down. Yeah, well played. Basically, I was on Facebook today, and when I did Psychic and Science, which was for people listening who didn't go because most people didn't go, was like a live Most Haunted that went around theatres all over the UK, and I was the host of it, and I worked with a psychic called Chris Conway, who had been on Most Haunted before for a season or two. And he's on Facebook now saying, Most Haunted's gone too far. We who believe in the supernatural and the paranormal think Most Haunted's ruined the credibility of genuine paranormal investigators. And so he's going to get a load of people who have been on Most Haunted and left or been fired or quit unceremoniously. And they're all going to band together and do this whole kind of united front protecting their industry. Kind of like Live Aid of psychics, I guess. I don't know. And I thought that was fascinating because when I spoke to Derek Okora when I did the tour with him, even if we all know he's a fake, I don't think he knows he's a fake because the way he talks about stuff, it's very impassioned and it's very confident that one day we'll all see what I see, we'll all see what us psychics experience. And like some people can believe that innate skill to read someone as a cold reader, they can fool themselves. I do think certain people who work in that community fool themselves.
It's called being a shut-eye, isn't it? I think that's what people refer to it as, becoming a shut-eye.
Yeah. It's very much the same with. I've met my arch nemesis Yuri Geller a few times, and he does come across as somebody who has been in the business of bending spoons and psychic trickery for so long that he actually believes what he's telling people. I mean, or he's just a very, very good charlatan. I wouldn't like to judge one way or the other.
Yeah, the thing with Geller though is what he does. There are only two ways it can be done. It either is genuinely psychic or it is fake. There is no kind of like you can be a natural cold reader with metal bending, especially when you rub it so the end comes off.
Other use of it.
But when you kind of do that, there are only two ways you can do it. Either genuinely you're psychic or you're pre-bending the spoon to weaken it or you're crimping it or something. So that's kind of the interesting thing about people like Geller, which I think is a little different to people like Okora, where you can actually convince yourself you have these abilities. And actually Geller's one of the people I'd very much like to sit down and have a drink with at some point. He seems like a very interesting person.
Just don't make him Michael Jackson. Gets him angry, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder how he feels about when Derek Okora brought through Michael Jackson just after his death. Did you see that seance Okora did?
Oh, God.
Where he became possessed by Michael Jackson. And he was just telling these fans who were genuinely upset. And it was kind of a distasteful thing. But he was kind of just saying, I love you, I'm your fan. And it's just like, it's one of my favourite things in the world to watch.
It was so cringeworthy, though. I watched a little bit of it, and it was just too cringeworthy.
I would like to see them go extreme. I'd like to see them do things like the possession of Jimmy Savile and see if Derek Okora will go on and have them come through him and confess to their horrible crimes. Because frankly, that's the kind of TV I'm going to watch at this point.
Now then.
There was a TV show in America where it wasn't like the criminals coming through, but it was the victims, and the psychic called Vicky Monroe would go into prisons and she would sit opposite people who were accused of the crimes, and she would channel their victims to them, which was really horrible.
That is disgusting.
Really,
It really is.
really sinister.
That
Yeah.
is, that's just horrendous. That,
Exploitative.
Vicky Monroe, that rings a bell as well for some reason.
I've interviewed her. She did. Myself and Michael Marshall interviewed her for the Righteous Indignation podcast, and
we
she
did.
did a psychic reading on air with us, and it was terrible. It was awkward as hell. But interestingly, the thing about Chris Conway is that I've seen lots of paranormal researchers kind of, even when the show was still going, saying, how dare they do this, they're making a mockery of us all. But actually, when you look at what ghost hunters do and what they do when they go on these ghost hunts, what they do is almost as bad, because they don't have the excuse that they're producing a TV show. They're doing it for real. And they cross the ethical line all the time with what they do, with their behaviour. And somehow Most Haunted is to blame for giving them a bad kind of picture of what they do. I don't think so. I think there's a huge disconnect in that line of thinking. I really do.
There's a tricky thing, because I know you've talked about it enough, where you invite these strangers into your house who say they're experts in something you can't possibly be an expert about, and then they leave your house the next day by saying, oh yeah, the rapist who killed 8 children in the house below, and leaves you with that horrible thought to worry about. And it just propagates this sense of they're making the business. What's the word I'm looking for? They're basically trying to keep their own business afloat by making sure they leave a breadcrumb trail of the ghosts that they come back to.
It's just producing work for themselves, and it's all in their best interests. Yeah.
I mean, there was an episode of Haunted Homes that I was watching a couple of weeks ago now. It's probably the least known of all of the series, which is unsurprising. But they went into a location.
I love Haunted Homes. What are you talking about?
It's French, but I'm just saying.
Oh, it's Chris French's one. Yeah,
but they went into a location, and they were because of a child, and she was supposed to be seeing ghosts and being sort of affected by it, and I found that really horrible. You can go in and scare adults and things like that, but when you go in and start messing about with children, and messing about with their heads and making them feel more frightened, I think that's when a real line is crossed, and that really needs to just do it on TV as well. If you're doing it in private, that's bad, but if you're doing it on TV where everybody gets to hear about it and gets to know about it and things like that, I think that's quite bad as well, to be honest.
I think that there's a connect here with Most Haunted and the ones where they're talking to murder victims. Even when you have in Most Haunted, when they're talking to somebody who's been murdered or a dead child, the only difference between that and the American things is just a passage of the centuries. I mean, is it just as tasteless just because the supposed ghosts are hundreds of years dead rather than just freshly in the ground? It's something to talk about.
Yeah, it's a big mess, and in a way, even if somebody is hundreds of years old, I still, for example, case in point, the Pendle Witches. When Most Haunted did a live from the area where the Pendle Witches were prosecuted and hung, and where they'd lived and so on, hanged. Sorry. There were still relatives.
Correct you.
Yeah, there were relatives of those witches who still live in that area, and they were wrongly persecuted. They were the victims, and yet the way that Yvette Fielding spoke to the so-called ghosts of these witches, screaming at them and calling them bitches and so on, I don't know. There was just something about it. Although I don't believe in ghosts, I just found it quite disrespectful in a way.
It's interesting as well. Go on, I'll let you finish because I'm just going to.
I was going to say that's kind of the thing as well, isn't it? If ghosts really do exist, we're kind of intruding in their domain to some degree. And you can maybe understand why they pull people who are attached to rope on Most Haunted live down the stairs.
Oh my god, if I was a ghost in that house, I would be finding every sharp implement I could find and aiming it at Paul and Stuart. Especially Stuart. He's the one I find most vile. I don't know. It's like I can almost understand the kind of weird people under the stairs-esque relationship that Carl and Yvette have. That's a great reference, by the way. If you haven't seen that film, highly recommended. But Stuart just seems like he's this nasty little piece of work who's like the guy who pulls your hair, and then when you turn around, it says, "Oh, it wasn't me." It's that
the
kind
eyes. It's his eyes. They're like suspicious eyes.
He was never the same since the Rams Inn incident that caused him to lose all his hair.
Oh my god, that was incredible. For those who don't know, he got attacked by the ghost of a witch. And They had to pull him out by his feet to save him, and yeah, it was traumatic.
It was.
And
I
clearly,
was upset.
yeah.
And this is the wonderful thing, though, is that with Most Haunted, because it was a show they were trying to discover and figure out, the only reason they had psychics in the show was to give the show a narrative. So when nothing happened, you could still have Derek or Chris or whatever just say, there's a ghost, there's a ghost, look at that, there's a ghost, and provide the stories. When they got rid of them, Carl and Yvette became the person who told those stories. They became the psychics to all intents and purposes with the whole chanting and stuff. And then they got in the poor... Look, I mean, he's probably a very nice man, but Fred Batt drives me fucking insane. I mean... It's almost cruel. He's like a doddering old man who gets pushed into the middle of a haunted house and says, "Just talk some Latin. Just do that with your weird, upside down cross necklace, and just stop babbling." Like they push him around, and I don't know. Poor Fred Batt.
He hasn't been the same since Derek Cora told him that he was one of the Knights Templar.
Yeah,
really?
I noticed that he changed as soon as he told him that. He was like, "I'm a demonologist." Straight away, there was no level of going up to a demonologist. He was literally an instant demonologist.
He was like a Pokemon evolution. Yeah. Fred Batt has evolved into demonologist.
Saturday night, it was all the swearing at the ghosts as well. I mean, and since when has any ghost hunter gone into a building and said, "Come on, ghost, come on, you fucker, come on, what have you got?" They don't.
It's Guy Ritchie's Ghost Watch. That's basically what it comes down to.
Well, I think that's all we've got time for this month.
Oh.
I know. It's been nearly an hour already. The plan is that this will be released as an audio podcast in some way or another within the next week, hopefully. So do check spooktator.co.uk for the download links. Hopefully we'll be on iTunes, and that will all be on the website within a week. Follow us on Twitter at the Spooktator and visit facebook.com/Spooktator. Is there anything you guys want to plug or say?
I've got a few shows coming up over the next few months and in the early start of the year. But if you want to, if you're looking for someone to do magic, especially paranormal themed magic, visit ashprice.co.uk. It's Price with a Y.
Nice, slickly done. I like it. And now I'm going to pimp my whorish products. I have a podcast called Cheap Show, which you can go to thecheapshow.co.uk and listen to. Me and my friend Eli go through bargain basements and charity shops and look for toys and games to play, live in front of a live audience. And then I have another thing coming up, which is called Paul Gannon, A Real Ghostbuster, which is a kind of new version of my solo show where I talk about my life ghost hunting and doing ghost tours and stuff like that. And it's being filmed for the Ghostbusters documentary Ghost Heads on the 22nd of November at the Albany. All details can be found at thegeekatorium.co.uk.
That is cool.
One hell of a plug. That's the biggest plug I've ever seen ever made. So well done for that one.
Anything else from anybody else?
Yes. Take a few minutes to look at my website, Angry People in Local Newspapers, and follow me on Twitter at Scary Duck, where I will be able to give you links to my forthcoming talks on my specialist subject, which is North Korea.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course, yes. And Alistair has spoken at Bath Skeptics. I wasn't there, but it was very good, apparently. So, yes. I don't have anything to plug because I'm really sad and I have no success in my life.
You have your excellent website.
Do you not have a website or a blog or anything like that you want to talk about, Hayley? Come on, we're here to support you.
A cake recipe you're proud of?
No, I don't. I'm really bad at baking.
A nice dog to show us or something?
I don't. He's not here.
Your favourite tweet?
What? My website is Hayley is a Ghost. You can have a look there if you like, or you don't have to. Mikey, you've got
pimping skills.
I just like to give people a choice. I believe in free will. Mike, you've got something coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, I have a small podcast that I'm developing at the moment. It's a folklore podcast. It's a traditional folk tale podcast. It's a tongue-in-cheek look at it, but that won't be out until December 1st. So I'll plug that next month and closer to the time, and I'll release some more information then. But that's it. I have no life either, so that's pretty much all I have to plug as well.
Well, we'll be back with a close look at November's ghosts on Thursday, December 3rd at 8:30 p.m. I'll put the details on the website spooktator.co.uk. And remember, spooky is in the eye of the beholder.